Hello everyone and welcome to this College of Arts PGT Open event. My name is Dr. Vicky Price and I'm the Dean of PGT in the college. I'm delighted to welcome you to this event, which is really designed to give you some information about what it's like to study PGT at Glasgow. So I'm going to introduce you to our panel members in just a moment, but just to say that if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat function. And we have some colleagues who aren't on the screen, but who I promise are here with us and will also be answering questions as we go through. But thank you again for joining us, and we really hope that you find this helpful. So I'm going to introduce our panel members today. I can't think of anybody better placed to give you the inside scoop on studying PGT at Glasgow than some of our current PGT students. So I am enormously grateful to Anna and to Lilja, who are with us today and who are asked to introduce themselves in just a minute. And also we have with us Professor Scott Spurlock. So thank you very much, Scott, as well, for joining us. Scott is the Acting International Dean for the College. So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves just now. Anna, could I ask you to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself and what the particular program is that you're studying?
Yeah, so I am Anna. I am a European student coming from Spain, but I've done my undergrad in Scotland, so I've been here for 4 years already. And I'm doing a translation studies master's here at the University of Glasgow.
Oh, brilliant. So the MSc Translation Studies. Fantastic. Yeah. And Lilja, could you do the same, please? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the particular program that you're currently studying.
Yeah, so my name is Lilja, and I am from the state of Maine in the US, and I am in the Archaeology MSc program.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much, Anna and Lilja. Scott, can I ask you to tell us a little bit about your role as College International Dean and what that role is and what it means for our students in the college, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Scott Spurlock. I'm professor of Scottish and Early Modern Christianities all of the time, and part of the time I'm international dean. So I'm here to help facilitate our connections with the rest of the world. That includes students. It also includes research partnerships with other universities. And so I'm really here to be a resource to help support particularly international students who want to come to Glasgow to answer questions and facilitate that process.
That's brilliant. Listen, thank you very much to all three of you. So what I'd like to do is ask each of you about what attracted you to Glasgow. So Anna and Lilja, I'd like to hear about why you, for example, chose your particular courses. And Scott, I'll ask you as well, just from a different perspective, as a staff perspective, why you chose to come and work at the University of Glasgow and in the city of Glasgow. So Lilja, shall I come to yourself first this time? So what was it that drew you to the MSc Archaeology and why study at University of Glasgow?
Yeah, so at my undergraduate at the University of Maine, I studied anthropology and climate change, and I had done a archaeology field school in Croatia. And so that kind of focused my regional interest in the Mediterranean. And believe it or not, there are very few archaeology programs that have a Mediterranean component that are not classics programs definitely across the US. But I did find the program at Glasgow had a Mediterranean component as well as a Mediterranean landscape archaeology component, which is my kind of very niche interest. And I had the opportunity to talk to one of the course conveners before I applied, and that really kind of confirmed the choice for me. And Glasgow specifically, I had visited my sister who did her master's and PhD at the University of Edinburgh. So I had been to Scotland before, had never been to Glasgow, and did have a sense that it would be a bit different. But I was really fascinated once I started learning about the city's kind of like rich history and diversity and access to other points in Scotland like the Highlands. So that really confirmed it for me.
So it sounds as though that dialogue as well that you had with the program convener was really useful as well in her confirming that the programme was the right fit and was exactly what you were looking for as well.
Definitely.
So there's maybe something in there that's a really useful tip in terms of not to be afraid to reach out to the programme conveners, and the list of the programme conveners is all on the web pages as well. But that sounds really sage advice. Was the City of Glasgow as well a factor? I mean, so you talked about the programme content, but was there anything about the city in itself? Were you familiar with the city beforehand, or was this something very new to you?
It was very new to me. I had only been to Edinburgh, and I had only read about Glasgow. So when I first arrived, it was kind of a shock. I mean, I didn't really know. The only thing I did know about Glasgow coming into it was that it would be easily connected to be able to explore different points in Scotland, and that really attracted me to it. But then, of course, coming here, I fell in love with the city. I think it's great.
Yeah, and we'll definitely look back to some of that actually, because what you were saying there about a great kind of base for visiting other places as well is something that certainly I've kind of really taken advantage of during my time in Glasgow as well. Okay, so I will go to Anna and ask you the same question really. I mean, what was it that drew you to the Masters in Translation Studies?
Well, my undergrad was English studies here in the UK, and since I was very young, I was learning languages. My parents always told me I should learn English, and then when I was a bit older, I found that was one of my interests to learn languages on my own and other cultures. So I think that's what I found, that translation studies was a nice way of mixing my love for languages with my love for literature. And yeah, that's why I chose it.
Okay, and how about the City of Glasgow? Was that a factor, or was that something you were less familiar with? Was that less of a reason for choosing the programme?
No, Glasgow was a factor in it as well. I wanted to stay in the UK because I really like the university system here. I think it really brings out the best in me, the way that I can do my own research and write my own essays in the topics that interest me the most, which is something that doesn't happen in other European countries, at least in Spain, for example. And then Glasgow specifically, because I studied in Dundee, which is also a great university, but I felt like I wanted a bit of a change and move into a bigger city with more things to do. And then I was reading on the University of Glasgow and reading all the reviews and the student satisfaction and all those things, and it seemed like the obvious choice. And then when I went to a postgrad event like this, but for the specific program, it really confirmed it for me because I could see all the modules and everything that I could do. Yeah.
That's great. That's really helpful. And there's something in there too about, it says that you did a lot of research before arriving at that. So you were talking about that you checked out kind of staff-student scores, you checked out different surveys and so on, and really done that research into was this university going to be the right fit? Okay, brilliant. Scott, so I'll come to yourself, obviously from a slightly different perspective, but is there anything that you would like to say about kind of why the City of Glasgow and why Glasgow University?
Yeah, so I came to Scotland to do a PhD, and then I've worked at 7 institutions in Britain and Ireland. And institutionally, Glasgow is pretty special. It's the 4th oldest university in the English-speaking world, and to me as a historian, that's something quite remarkable. But it's also in one of the most vibrant cities in Europe, at least in the UK. It's a UNESCO City of Music, and the Rough Guide and Time Out magazine have both voted it the friendliest city in the world. So it's a pretty sweet combination of factors that make it a really amazing place to be.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. I mean, yeah, just to pick up on a couple of things you said there. So I'm originally from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and for me it was really important that the city would be friendly and have a sense of humour. That was something that was really, really important to me. But also the cultural scene as well, that I can go and see a gazillion different types of theatre any night of the week, or tap into different music festivals or film festivals was another factor at my end on that. So we talked a little bit about what attracted you all to Glasgow. I'd like to ask Anna and Lilja about kind of their first impressions of Glasgow. So if I maybe go to Anna first this time, what were your first impressions of Glasgow as a campus, for example?
I visited it before I left for to spend summer in Spain back home, and then before I even accepted my offer, because I knew I needed to see it before I came for the first time. And when I arrived I walked all the way to the West End to reach the campus, so I got to walk through the city. But when I wasn't expecting to see, for example, the main building really shocked me because it was so beautiful, and to me it felt really good to see, and if I could really feel the academic environment just by seeing that building, which is probably the most recognizable building in the university. But then when I got to walk around the campus and I saw how big the library was, and how all the buildings, and some of the students still walking around because it was about to be summer, so there wasn't many people left. But it felt really welcoming. It felt very nice to walk around, and I was excited to see myself walking there in a few months' time.
That's amazing. And you mentioned there kind of the library, and I happened to notice that somebody put in a question about kind of archives. And one of the lovely things about the library at University of Glasgow is the wealth of collections that it has, both, for example, in special collections, but also its connections with the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery and Museum, the Hunterian Museum. It's home to the Scottish Theatre Archives. There's such a wealth of resources all on the one doorstep, which is lovely. Okay, so I will go to Lilja then. How about yourself? What were your first impressions of Glasgow University or of the city?
Yeah, for the university itself, similar to Anna, I was really impressed and wowed by the main building. It's very Hogwarts-esque, which just feels it's very fun, very cool. I like that, and I think the campus just has a really great energy to it. I think there's so much diversity. There's just I love being able to explore all the different kind of study spaces and different places to go, like the Hunterian, and it's so close to the Kelvin Grove, and everything is very walkable, I would say. And the public transit of the city was definitely one of my first impressions, but the walkability was a huge factor as well for me. I really appreciate that. And the subway system in Glasgow, I was very surprised by, because coming from the US and having visited and spent time in cities like New York City, the metro system is so hectic. And then I got to Glasgow and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a circle. And the train itself is so small, and it's fun. It's like baby public transit. So that was a fun and kind of surprising first impression for me. And then about the city itself, I was really impressed by how much green space the city has within it. I can walk along the River Kelvin, and on those kind of paths, you don't even realize that you're in a city. It's all forest and beautiful, especially in the fall when the leaves were changing. That was a really beautiful time to be able to take a walk there and kind of get a breath of fresh air in between classes. The Botanic Garden close to campus, also beautiful. Kelvin Grove Park. And it was a very important factor for me to be able to have access to green space, somewhere where I felt safe recreating. It was definitely one of my top priorities and something that impressed me.
Thank you. Scott, is there anything that you would like to say about, are there any highlights of the campus space, for example, that we've not touched on that you think are worth mentioning?
I mean, there's a reason that it's regularly ranked as one of the most beautiful campuses in the UK because of its location, and it's such a green and lively city, and that having both the campus feel, but then being just 100 feet away from very vibrant cafes and pubs is all pretty special. I keep saying everything's pretty special, but it's a pretty good place. So
And Anna and Lilja, do you have any tips for anyone moving to Glasgow? Because I know that it can be quite daunting thinking about a massive kind of move like that, for example, depending on where you'd be travelling from. Do you have any tips that you think it's worth sharing in that? I'll go to Anna first.
Yeah, so, well, if you're moving from far away, I'd say bring something from home, whether it's like food that you know you won't be able to get in the UK, or something that reminds you of home, because obviously, as amazing as Glasgow is and everyone's very welcoming, when you come from abroad, it's inevitable that you will feel homesick at some point. But having that, and also bearing in mind that there's a big community of international students in Glasgow, really makes it easier. So I would say that's very important for me, and I do it every time I have to come back here. And every time I go to Spain, I just bring a lot of stuff that reminds me of home to help me, be away from home.
That sounds like some really excellent advice there. Lilja, is there anything that you would have as a top tip to share with our audience?
Yeah, I would second what Anna has to say about bringing stuff from home. It was very important for me to bring, stuff like maple syrup and pumpkin puree to have kind of the taste of New England autumn while in Glasgow. As well, I would say, tip for moving, just kind of a broad, more basic tip, but definitely invest in a good rain jacket and rain boots, and bring layers. Be prepared to layer just to deal with the Scottish weather. But also just kind of like be prepared to kind of maybe push yourself to try something new, like maybe try one new coffee shop like that week or that month, or visit the Kelvin Grove on the weekend, or a museum or something like that, to kind of immerse yourself in the place a little bit. I think it can be easy as an international student to be in a little bit of a bubble, but to just kind of like push that as much as you feel comfortable, and try some new things while you're here, because I think it's a great opportunity to do that if you're studying.
Thank you very much. Those are both excellent pieces of advice there. So really, really core to any kind of study is a sense of community. So I'd like to ask a little bit about community. So I'd like to ask initially about community in your subject areas or within your programs. So Anna, shall I come to you first on that? I mean, what is the community like in your subject area?
It's amazing, really. I'm so happy because it's so nice to have people that share your same interest, and they're also passionate and eager to talk to you about what they like, and what you're doing in class. Even not only in the class, but also PhD students. Sometimes we get to talk to them in school events, things like that, and they're so passionate about their topic, and they keep telling you about it. So it's something that I really like about academic life. I feel like in Glasgow, especially in my master's, because we do translation studies, so most of us are all of us are bilingual, and then some of us are even have more than 3 to 4 languages. So you get a sense that those people really understand other cultures, and understand, the struggles of learning a different language and the struggles of communicating in a different language. So it feels like a very supportive and positive community that we have.
Thank you. So you were pointing out to kind of the community within the immediate program area, but also the opportunities to interact with wider cohorts. So, for example, you mentioned opportunities to interact with different PhD students and to find out more about that and different communal areas of interest in terms of study topics and so forth. Is that similar, Lilja, on your program? Are there different activities there that help facilitate that community building?
Yeah, 100%. I've found a really tight-knit community so far doing the archaeology MSc program at Glasgow. The archaeology program itself is split kind of into three groups. So there's the material culture side, just the regular archaeology MSc program, which is what I'm in, and then the conflict and heritage students. But we're all together, and I would say there are about 15 of us. And we have one class, or we had one class this semester that was all of us all together, but most of the time I won't see everyone. The classes will be smaller or more dispersed, but having that one class with all of us together, I've really gotten to know everyone in the program really well. And we've been able to coordinate things like go out to brunch or do kind of like other community things like go out for coffee. And the department really facilitates that as well. Actually, tonight there is the archaeology department Christmas party. So that will be the professors, the PhD students, and the master's students, as well as any undergraduates who want to come along too. And so I feel like that kind of small class size and small program size has really helped me foster deeper connections with people, which is what I hoped to come in here and make. And I think I've made friends for life, which is really nice. And you really only have 1 year in this program to kind of make friends and build professional connections. But I think that the department does a good job hosting things like these gatherings and parties. And we have a weekly seminar on a topic of archaeology where they bring guest lecturers in, and then everyone would go out to the pub, the professors included. So that was also a really good time to deepen those professional connections and have a good time. So I think it's been really, really wonderful for a first semester.
So lots of different opportunities to facilitate that community building across student cohorts, but also across staff students as well. There's, I guess, as well, also different opportunities in connection to the wider arts sector as well. So for many of the programs across the college, there are things like guest tutors or master classes with guest practitioners, and so lots of opportunities there, through placements and so forth for networking and wider community building out with the university as well. Too. I wondered if you could both, and then I'll come to yourself in a moment, Scott, but I wondered, Anna and Lilja, if you could say a little bit about community in the wider college. So you've spoken a little bit about in your programs, but are there activities more broadly across the university that are available to you? So I'll go to Lilja first on this.
Sure. Yeah. So I have joined the Walking Society as kind of one of my extracurriculars, and that has been a really wonderful way to meet people from other programs and at different levels. So there are undergraduates as well as postgraduate students who can join the societies, and I think that that's been a really wonderful way to just be able to go out and recreate and kind of walking, talk, get to know other people. And they all, like the societies and the Walking Society as well, will do events and things like that. So pub quizzes and pub crawls and just, little get-togethers so that you can kind of meet more people and build community outside of your program.
How about, Anna, what's your experience of that as well? Do you tap into different kind of opportunities across the university in a similar way?
Yeah, I also second the society. Joining the society is very nice for meeting people. I also think that the university offers a lot of talks throughout all of the departments. Also, they offer, I think it's like evening classes or short courses where you can also meet people. They have the Confucius Institute for Learning Chinese, which I think is a great resource because they offer affordable language classes. yeah, I think those are the ones that I normally tend to go attend talks or seminars in the school or with out with the school, and evening short courses. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I see that in the chat somebody's put that there are over 300 student societies on campus, and there genuinely is something for everyone there, from student theatre at Glasgow if you're interested in theatre and performance, to the walking club that Anna and Lilja mentioned. Scott, from your perspective, could you tell us a little bit about what opportunities there are for PGT students, in particular for international PGT students? I know that in the chat there was a question earlier, for example, about exchange opportunities and so forth.
Yeah, so that depends on the program. One of the challenges with the exchange in the PGT program is because it's our masters are 1 year masters, which is worth noting because that's not necessarily the model in other countries. So there are programs that do facilitate the opportunity to have exchanges. Others are, because they're within a 12-month program, much more structured. Um, but there are also opportunities within those programs to have experiences such as in archaeology, digs, and things like that. So, yeah, we also intentionally put on activities for international students to help embed them or expose them to Scottish culture. So Cayleys and other events. If nobody's ever experienced a Cayley, then you've missed out profoundly because they are amazing. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question or not.
I
Or
think it
partially,
does.
maybe.
Yeah, and can you say a little bit more about wider opportunities for our PGT students, and different sources of support that you're aware of that are there for example, for our international PGT students?
So um, yes, but in what particular areas would you like me to
So
unpack?
if there are
So,
particular opportunities that you think, oh, these are particularly useful to flag as different opportunities that are available to our PGT students.
well, as you've already indicated, we have very good relations with Glasgow Life, which is all of the museums and um, libraries and cultural centers in Glasgow. We have good connections with the Glasgow Women's Library. We have very good connections with Interfaith Glasgow and the Iona community, all of which provide opportunities for students to volunteer or to participate in various aspects, which are usually above and beyond the set curricula. So in that respect, we're well connected to the cities and the regions, cultural and religious communities, which provide some great opportunities.
Thank you. And there's a question as well about do the College of Arts postgraduate taught programs provide internship experience? So some of the postgraduate programs, many of the postgraduate programs have work-based learning opportunities embedded into their fabric. So that might be, for example, a placement course. In some instances, it might not be a placement, but it might have practitioners delivering guest workshops as part of the course. There's a range of different types of work-based learning across the college. And there's also, in terms of wider internship experiences, our career service provides lots of information about extracurricular opportunities that come up and kind of advertise those as well. So I'm just responding to that question that was put in the chat there.
Vicky, could I just jump in with a quick comment on that? Just in case you're not entirely sure, listeners around the world, it is a taught master's program, but that requires 120 credits of coursework and then a dissertation. And that dissertation will take shape. You'll forge that as you're taking your classes in the first half of the academic year. But during that time, you can make connections with some of these external partners and think about dissertations that are shaped directly to your interests and what you want to where you want to take your studies. But we can utilize those external partnerships in ways that are not necessarily internships, but that are related to external partners. So just to throw that out there so people know the
Thank
shape
you
of
very
it.
much. So I'm going to ask Anna and Lilja a little bit about how your first semester has been. And I recognise that right now is probably assessment season. But if you can kind of cast your minds back over the past 11, 12 weeks, what have been the highlights so far? And has there been anything that surprised you? So I'll go to Lilja first on this one.
Sure. My first semester has been really great so far. I think some of my highlights have been making all these great friends and community and exploring Glasgow, but also exploring Scotland. I think in my program, probably one of my highlights has been being able to go on field trips. So in my conflict archaeology class called The Art of War, we have taken 2 field trips, one of which was a trip up to Inverness, and we got to go to the Battle of Culloden and the Battle of Killiecrankie, and then a second field trip to the Battle of Bannockburn near Stirling. And I didn't know a whole lot about kind of Scottish battlefield history before coming here, but I think being able to have that firsthand experience was such an important and valuable aspect of the course, and something that I will remember. And it has really deepened my sense of place and connection to Scotland in particular. And then probably my other top highlight this semester so far has been going with the Walking Society to do local walks. I think my favorite was doing this hike called the Devil's Beef Tub, which is kind of a silly name, but it was a really wonderful hike, 23 kilometers. It was pouring rain, but you still had really great views. It's very Scottish. I had a great time doing that. And we also got to do like a coastal walk from Kingsbarns to St. Andrews. So I feel like I've been able to see a lot of Scotland in a short period of time with these kind of like built-in field trips or opportunities through societies. And that has been really invaluable to me.
Are there particular things that you know are coming up next semester, Lilja, that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited to continue to go on some walks, some hikes, but I'm very excited for one of my classes because it's a class called Experiencing Landscapes and Heritage, and one of the assessments is to make a scrapbook. And I just think that is such a creative and fun, and I love to do arts and crafts. So I think I'm very excited for the class and to kind of learn and take from that as part of my dissertation. But I think that will just be a really fun time. So looking forward to it.
Amazing. Okay, and Anna, how about yourself? What have been the highlights, and has there been anything that surprised you?
Yes, for me, well, course-wise, I was very happy to see that the master's mixes theory and practice, and I don't only get to study translation practically, but also theoretically, which is very important because I think many people want to do a PhD in translation studies. I also really enjoyed, as we've mentioned before, the professionals that the university invites to talk to us about translation or what they're studying in translation, or even we had the European Central Bank translation team come talk to us the other day about what they do and job opportunities, things like that. So that's really nice because it widens your perspective in your field of study. And also for me, one of the highlights was how approachable the lecturers was, because we are 25 in our cohort is 25 people, so we're all very close, and the lecturers are always very happy and willing to help us. They're almost like friends. They come to the pub with us, as Lynn has said before, and they're always there to answer your questions or just to have a chat with you, which I thought was really, really nice.
Thank you both. So, Scott, one of the things that was mentioned, I think it was Liliana had said about the scrapbook assessment, and it made me think about skills and the logic of why that came into my head was the different types of assessments and the different graduate attributes that can come from those and so forth. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit about what kinds of skills or experiences do PGT students on our programs gain?
Yeah, sorry, my internet might be cutting on me. So the programs are very specific to the discipline. So the necessary graduate attributes for progressing in those fields are embedded within the very nature of the course. But also, as in all arts degrees, they're very much about critical thinking, engagement with sources, determining the reliability of sources, asking probing questions. And it's one of the reasons that actually, if you look out at the wider world, there are so many arts graduates that are chief executives of Fortune 500 companies because we emphasize that very much a critical engagement with um, probing questions. So it's a good opportunity. It's a broad set of skills that we're looking to impart on our students rather than pushing them in one particular direction. So some of our students may continue and go into academia. Others may end up in politics. We have quite a few recent graduates who've gone into journalism, teaching. So it's not none of our programs are to equip in particular disciplines, but not for single destinations.
Thank you. Anna, can you say a little bit about whether you feel that I recognise that you've just had one semester, but have there been any new skills that you feel that you've learned, or have you learned anything new about yourself coming out of this semester, do you think?
Yeah, for me, well, not only discipline-wise, because obviously going from English to translation gives you a different set of skills, improves the ones that you got from your undergrad, and also gives you a different ones. For me, what really made me realize all of the things that I was learning when I volunteered to be class rep, because I had never had such a role. I was just like one of the students, is not really voicing my opinions, or just trying to blend in. But when I volunteered, and then I had to be the one, um, you know, um, passing on the feedback from the students to the lecturers, and bringing up suggestions how to improve, how to tackle the issues. That really made me realize how much I had grown, and how much that opportunity really made me learn new skills and realize new things about myself.
Thank you very much. And Lilja, how about yourself? Can you speak to that as well, please?
Yeah, I definitely feel that even after only one semester, I have gained some really valuable skills. Some of them have been course specific and kind of like program specific skills. Like I've, you know, learned more about different kind of methods in archaeology, such as utilizing remote sensing data, things like how to write a literature review effectively, which would be very helpful for me for next year for my dissertation. But also kind of something that probably has stuck with me the most out of what I've learned is kind of transitioning from a US approach to archaeology to a UK approach to archaeology. And in the UK, it seems like there is a really big emphasis on explaining public impact, like why is doing archaeology relevant, whereas maybe I hadn't been exposed to that as much. So kind of learning about this theory, this kind of undergirding theory about public engagement and community archaeology has been really, really interesting to me, and kind of getting me thinking about what I want to do in the future. And then I think, it was a bit different as well, not only the jump from the US to the UK system, which has been greatly facilitated by the professors here, but also just it's been 2 years since I was in undergrad. I graduated in 2020 from undergrad in the midst of COVID. And so kind of getting back into study habits has been was a slight hiccup at the beginning, but I think after the first semester, I've really settled into a study life balance, and that's going really well.
So that leads us really neatly into thinking about extracurricular activities, because that's really important as part of that balance that you were mentioning there, Lilja. So I wondered if I could ask you both, and then we'll finish by thinking about advice in terms of applying and anything you wish you'd been told before applying and so forth. But in terms of extracurricular activities, what activity, I mean, you've touched on some of them already, so for example, the walking group and so on, but are there other things that you think it's useful for us to share in terms of different activities that are readily accessible as part of thinking about your broader university journey that goes beyond your programme and beyond the academic side to the all-roundedness that you were touching on?
Yeah, on the more academic side, it's been really wonderful to be involved as a class representative and do that kind of liaising between staff and students, and feel like you're kind of giving back to a wider community. And then, of course, getting involved in the Walking Society. I also pop into the Archaeology Society events sometimes, has been really fun to do. But otherwise, kind of outside of more structured activities, I really enjoy doing things like going to the university gym and using they have a really great facility, and they have such awesome classes that are very easy to sign up for online. So that has been really fun, as well as kind of trying different foods and new cuisines. There's so many foods, so many different types of world cuisines in Glasgow, and I have only sampled a very small fraction. But in my free time and when it's in the budget, I do really enjoy either getting takeaway or going to sit in somewhere, and that's really great for community building as well if you bring a friend along. But yeah, I would say doing that, and then just kind of keeping up with my hobbies and like going to museums and taking that kind of time. And there are such great opportunities for that all over Glasgow. The Riverside Museum is the transport one, and that is free. And the Kelvin Grove is free. And so really, really helpful for the budget, but also just very accessible and fun. I've had a good time.
Thank you very much. Anna, can I come to you to ask you about if there's any advice that you would have for anyone who's thinking about applying for one of our programmes? Is there any particular tips you can give, or anything that you wish somebody had have told you before you were applying?
Yeah, for me, I would say maybe try to apply as soon as you can, because this year especially, I've heard that it's quite hard to find accommodation, and the sooner you apply, it's reassuring to know that you're going to find a place in the city, and the student accommodations are going to be available for you before they all get booked. So that's something that I would tell myself if I could go back in time. But apart from that, I would just say that, also, I would say get a smart card as well. I think this is very useful. If you are going to commute to university or to town or wherever with the subway, a smart card is very convenient, because in the long run, it's way cheaper than paying, single return trips, whatever. Buses, I'm not so sure about, but the smart card is definitely something that you should get if you're planning on coming to Glasgow. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Scott, from your perspective, is there any advice that you would like to give on that in terms of advice for thinking about applying?
Yeah, no, I would just echo that. Apply early, so that you're in the system. It means you can request university accommodation and be at the front of the queue. Applications can be put in quite late, but it just causes probably a bit more challenge to get everything squared away in the short term. So plan early, apply early, and get that sorted.
Okay, listen, I'm conscious that brings us to the close of this discussion. So my thanks again to Scott, Lilja and Anna. I think that's been enormously helpful information that you've shared, some really sage advice that you've been providing there. Enormous thanks as well to everybody who has been listening to this web chat. We hope that you found it helpful. and we very much hope that you'll be potentially joining us on one of our programmes in the future. Please don't hesitate to get in touch moving forward. If you have any questions about any of our programmes, all the details are on our website. Thank you again, and take care, everyone.